Imagine a movie where everyone's staring at a screen. It would be very realistic, but it'd be terrible to watch. The real world is pretty amazing. If the real world didn't exist and someone invented it, you would say they've invented the greatest thing of all time. Our original tagline was travel like a human. And the key is human, not travel.
So Brian, before we dive into what's new, I want to set the stage for people who don't know the full story of Airbnb. I was at the launch several months back, and you told a story of how the company came to be and how it got its name. Would you let people know how that happened?
Yeah,
it's so interesting.
It's a fun story. It was 18 years ago, 2007. And I was a designer living in San Francisco, not making a lot of money. And I was living in San Francisco with my friend from college. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and my friend's name was Joe Gebbia. And I remember I had $1,000 at the bank, and Joe said, well, we've got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, well, the landlord just raised the rent. And so now I owe like $1,150. So I can't pay rent. It turns out that weekend, an international design conference was coming to San Francisco. And when we go on the conference website, we noticed that all the hotels they were recommending were sold out. Mm-hmm. And that's when we had an idea. We said, what if we turned our house into a bed and breakfast for the design conference? Unfortunately, I didn't have any beds, but Joe had 3 airbeds. So we pulled the airbeds out of the closet, we inflated them, and we called it airbedandbreakfast.com, not knowing this would be anything more than one weekend. We put the website up, and 3 guests ended up staying with us. The first guest was a 30-year-old from India.
Okay.
The second guest was a 35-year-old woman from Boston. The third guest was a 45-year-old father of 5 from Utah. So we had these guests from all walks of life. We hung out with them. We took them around the city. We had a great time. And over the course of the week, 2 things happened. The first thing is we made enough money to pay our rent. The second thing is we actually made friends, because when someone lives with you for a week, it's like you've known them for a long time. Right. And as we're waving them goodbye, we remember I was thinking, we're ordinary guys. There's a lot of other ordinary people like us that want to make some extra money, meet cool people. I asked Joe, I said, who's the best engineer you know? He said, my old roommate Nate is. And we got together and we said, what if you can build a website where you can book a home the way you can book a hotel and around the world? I remember we told people about it. The first person I told about it, he said, Brian. I said, yes. He goes, I hope that's not the only idea you're working on. People thought this idea is crazy. They said, strangers will never stay with other strangers. But more than 2 billion guests later, here it is.
Here it is. Okay. Fast forward to from these scrappy beginnings, if you will, to today, and Airbnb looks like a very different company, at least as it pertains to how things work and everything that you're talking about today. A few months back, you rolled out what you called at the time the biggest Airbnb update in its history.
Yes.
With a new design, services, expanded experiences. Curious how that relaunch went and what were the biggest wins and surprises that you realized since then?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we really announced 3 things. Reimagined Airbnb experiences. We had them, but we hadn't invested in them. So we rebuilt it from the ground up. We launched services, and then we built an entirely new app. I'll start with the new app and work backwards. Almost every tab in the app has completely rebuilt from the ground up. We had an entirely new profile, a new itinerary. We had new tabs for hosts. So it was a completely new architecture. And I want to imagine a metaphor. Let's say we live in a 2-story house, and you want to build 10 stories above the house. Yep. You usually can't just add stories in the house. The house foundation was not conceived to house more than 2 stories. And that was kind of the metaphor for our app. We had grand ambitions to offer more than just homes. And we realized that the app needed to be completely reimagined. That kind of the company did. So we kind of rebuilt the app from the ground up, and it's now able to expand beyond our core business. So what we're going to offer, we started experiences. That's gone quite well. We're really focusing on a few cities to get right. We focus experiences on Paris, and it's going really, really well. It's starting to work. And the key is to get product market fit. As you know, like most of these marketplaces, you need to get a couple cities just to work. And then once it works, it takes off. Then you just expand the playbook city by city. With services, we focused on LA. And if you go to LA, there's a very robust store. We have 10 categories. It's really starting to get some traction. And we're getting a lot of demand for services. One of the things we're noticing is with experiences, 40% of people are booking originals in their own city. With experiences, services, like more than 10% of people are booking in their own city as well. So we're starting to see local demand, which, you know, we were expecting, but not right away. And we're getting more than we were anticipating. I think it's solving a big problem for people. And people really love service experiences. The average rating is 4.93 out of 5 stars. The homes is 4.8. So It's just getting started, but I think services experiences could be really big businesses, multi-billion dollar businesses. With services, there's kind of like no Amazon for services.
Right.
People say Amazon's the everything store. Amazon's the everything in a cardboard box store. It's not everything. It's not services. And services is a huge part of the economy. And there's many different apps that do one thing in one country, maybe, but there's not one platform that makes it easy to instant book high quality services. And that's what we want to build. And this is just the beginning. We have many more businesses to come. And while I said that May was the biggest update ever, and it was, I hope I can say that over and over again. I hope next year where there's an even bigger update and the year after is an even bigger update. So our goal is now every year we have something that's the biggest we've ever done. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Like, Apple, Steve would say, this is the best thing we've ever done. Well, that's the whole point of technology is every year you do the best thing you've ever done. And I can only say that recently for the first time this year, but I think going forward, we're going to become much more than just a platform to book a home. I think AI is going to be the center of what we're doing. And I think everybody's going to be much more social. It's going to be much more of a community.
That leads me right into my next question. I once heard you say the human part was always more important than the travel part.
Yes.
Which stuck with me when I heard you say that. The new social features that you announced today let travelers see who else is attending, lets them connect and stay in touch. What inspired this move towards making Airbnb more of a travel community as opposed to just a place where you grab a rental and then go home?
It's a great question. There are really two things. The first was a very tactical one, an observation. The observation was a lot of people that book experiences do it to meet other people. And we noticed that people were telling us that after the experience is over, they would try to exchange contact information with other people on WhatsApp. But if you meet 5 people, it's like cumbersome, and you create a group, and how do you exchange information? And it's awkward, and not everyone wants to exchange information. Some people do. And it was kind of messy. And we thought it would be much easier if we created a very privacy friendly, simple way of doing that. And so that's why we did. So that was just an observation.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a much bigger idea though. And the bigger idea is that, what keeps me going 17, 18 years later to keep working at Airbnb? It's not just to get a house. What I want Airbnb to become is not a marketplace, but a community. And I think for it to be a community, it's got to be a way for people to meet, connect, and stay in touch. And I think travel is a great way to connect with other people. And I think increasingly, a lot of people describe themselves as feeling lonely. They're on social media, but social media is kind of parasocial. It's kind of looking into the window of a party, not being in the party. And I think that increasingly people are spending more and more time looking at a piece of glass all day, just staring at this piece of glass. And I think there's nothing wrong with phones or a piece of glass. There's probably something wrong with the amount of time, I'm guilty of this too, we're all spending on it.
Sure.
And I think that do you notice that for me, a phone is never in my dreams. I never dream and have a device in my dreams. Some people do, I don't. Most people don't, by the way. You dream of real life, even though we're increasingly staring at a screen. Imagine a movie where everyone's staring at a screen. It would be very realistic, but it'd be terrible to watch. The real world is pretty amazing. If the real world didn't exist and someone invented it, you would say they've invented the greatest thing of all time. It's a weird thing to say, but we're becoming so disconnected from the real world. And so I want to help people get off their phones, back into the real world, meeting real people in real communities. And not just be tourists, but feel like you live in these communities and be locals. And I really hope that if you're going to be successful, the people feel a little less lonely. They understand one another. They're less divided. The world feels smaller. So, we're in a sense a technology company. We use technology, but in a larger sense, we're a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a community is more enduring than any type of technology. Today it's AI, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't think people even use that word anymore. It's like using the word the internet. We don't say we're an internet company. It goes without saying. I think that's true of AI. Now it's exciting, it's new, it's novel, but like electricity intelligence will be ubiquitous, and we won't know a world without it. And so the question is, what are we going to always care about? There will always be new technology. We want to be, but I remember Steve Jobs had this saying, and I've always looked up to him. He said, you got to start with the user experience and work backwards to technology. You can't start with the technology and work forward to the user experience. A lot of companies in Silicon Valley are starting with the technology. It's novel. I'm not against that approach, but we're just a little bit different.
Yeah.
We're not a technology research company. Where our skill set is, we're at the application layer. We're really good at design. We're really good at figuring out, okay, you've invented this technology, but what can we do with it? what do people need in their life right now? So we start with the human condition and work backwards to, well, people are feeling disconnected, isolated. They want to have more, like, people don't know what's real and not real yet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know if this is a real person or a fake person, because artificial intelligence also means artificial reality, and we don't know what's real. So that's kind of how we approach problems.
Okay, today you announced a partnership with the show Chef's Table, which is an incredible show, one of my favorites. You've got major chefs and restaurants now offering exclusive experiences. In fact, I just did one a couple of days ago at Open Story with your team, which was so cool. What are some of these new experiences that people can find as part of this partnership, and what can they expect when they participate?
Yeah, so we've got, I think, 70 in 10 different cities, I believe. And the ones I know offhand, Jamie Oliver, he's obviously a renowned chef. I think he's the second best-selling author in the UK after J.K. Rowling. If you add up the number of copies of all his books, 28 books. So you can make pasta with him. We have some incredible Michelin chefs here in New York City that are really, really great. Chris Bianco, he's a famed pizzeria pizza maker. He's got this famous pizzeria. He's the first person with pizzeria that I believe won a James Beard Award. And I actually had food with him because I did a segment on Jimmy Kimmel where Chris Bianco, who's a friend of his, made food for all of us. It was really incredible. So you get to basically have these food experiences with these renowned chefs. And yeah, it's just like these food experiences. Sometimes you make food with them. Sometimes they prepare the food for you and make it for you. And you just listen to stories about them and you really get to connect. Often these really cool environments. Sometimes they're restaurants, sometimes in a home-like environment. And I think this is just a sense of where we're going. We're going to do a lot more partnerships with brands. We're going to really allow people to have these really special experiences once in a lifetime in some cases, like Jamie Oliver. These are like once in a lifetime. And I think it's really tapping into the magic of the real world and the magic of people.
Yeah.
And I think when in a world where like artificial intelligence is like blurring the line between what's real, what's not real, there's going to be like a counter trend. And the counter trend to artificial intelligence, but I think artificial reality is a good description of what our AI creates, is reality, like the real world. And at some point, it's going to be hard to know if something's real unless it's in real life, potentially, unless we figure out, I'm sure we'll figure out how to discern what's real and not real digitally, but the digital world is going to be increasingly a fantasy land, which will be fun, but we're going to need a real place to go to.
So what is the long-term vision here? Because it's not just Chef's Table. You've had exclusive experiences at for lodging and for other things too. Is it that you want Airbnb to be the place that people think of when they want to do a once-in-a-lifetime curated experience?
The answer is absolutely. I think like our vision for experience, we have a vision for experience and a vision for the company. I think our vision for the experiences is I want to create an entirely new category of travel or entertainment and educational type experiences. There's tourist activities. You can go on a double-decker bus tour. You can get a crowded tour guide like activity at the Eiffel Tower. But what if you could actually have these small, intimate experiences with local experts? You can meet other cool people. And it's not just something you do when you're traveling. It'd be something you do in your own city.
Yeah.
Imagine date night. Like it's a Friday night. What do you do on date night now? Like you probably go to a restaurant, I guess.
Right.
People used to go to movies. They don't go to movies as much. Even bars and lounges, except for popular cities, they're like the pandemic wiped out a lot of that. So people go to a restaurant, they stay home and watch Netflix. What if there's a third thing you can do?
Yeah.
It'd be good for a first date. It'd be good if you have family, you have kids, you want to do something really fun on a Saturday. And by the way, it's a melting pot of travelers and locals. So, and you could have experience with famous people or just really interesting people that no one really knows about. So if this is successful, it's just, I think, going to create a whole new form of entertainment and experiences in the real world. But by the way, all those influencers and creators on social media, I think this, how do influencers make money today? There's different ways, but a lot of times they're promoting products. I think what a lot of them are telling us is they love to do experiences because A, it's a great way to monetize their skill set, but B, they can actually meet their fans and really have a connection with their fans. And I think, there's an abstraction to posting and just getting likes and comments. To meet the people that follow you is so different.
Yeah.
So that's the vision for experiences. For the company, it is so much bigger. Again, I want to build the biggest community in the real world that's high trust, where people can kind of travel, live, and belong. truly anywhere in the world. And if we're successful, you go to any community, anywhere in the world, we feel like Airbnb knows you, the community knows you, they welcome you in, and you can get whatever you want and meet whoever you want.
Looking ahead, in your view, what's the biggest challenge you think still remains for travel or for Airbnb specifically?
In 1950, I believe, 25 million people crossed the border to travel. Now, more than 1 billion people a year cross the border to travel. Travel has gone through this massive wave where, before World War II, very few people could travel for fun. In fact, the word travel means travail. It comes from the word travail, which is like a painful or arduous journey. The word tourism comes from the term grand tour, which was this like very novel thing that aristocratic men did in the 17th, 18th century in England. And they would go to Paris and Rome for 6 months at a time. And what happened is as travel got popularized, it got commoditized. And so instead of like learning to paint in Paris, like the Grand Tour, you look at a painting behind glass with a sea of people in front of you taking a selfie.
Yep.
And it's gotten so commoditized. I think the magic has kind of diminished. And I think the biggest challenge in travel is not just to get more people to travel, but to get more people to travel authentically, to not all go to the same landmark, to not all like you go to Florence and it's just like totally crowded and people just go to the landmarks because they're popular. There's so much more to travel. Travel is not about landmarks. It's about people and communities. And there's interesting people and communities all over the world. And I think that traveling and living are going to start blurring together because many people can do the job from a laptop, which means you have more flexibility. And so you can travel and work and live, and business travel and leisure travel are blurring together as well. And so I think the biggest challenge of travel is to reclaim that authenticity, to basically make you feel like you live like a local and not just make it this cookie cutter commoditization, which is what I don't think younger people, especially Gen Z, wants. They really want authenticity. That's the biggest problem for travel. I think the biggest challenge for Airbnb is to stay trusted, to increase our trust, to keep reinventing ourselves, and for AI not to be existential risk, but an opportunity of a lifetime.
When it comes to the future of Airbnb as the founder and CEO, is there a feature or idea you are personally obsessed with as it pertains to determining where the company goes next or where it goes in the future?
I think the social features and the profile tab, because there's so many cool things. I mean, AI is exciting. But everyone's going to use AI. I think AI, you could replace the term AI with electricity. It's a good mental model because I think electricity is ubiquitous. I think intelligence will be ubiquitous. It might be less of a commodity than electricity. Like there's not that many different types of electricity. There'll be many different types of intelligence. But I think it'll be so ubiquitous that, again, I don't think it's some period of time we're even using the term AI. It's like, it's novel. So everyone's saying it. But one day AI is going to be in everything. So that I think we'll be a leading company on AI. I think we'll be a leader in applied AI, not research. But I think the thing that's unique to Airbnb is the community, the social features. Again, I think what you're seeing with experience is just the beginning. I think next year you're going to see us bringing social features to our core business. And I think you're going to see so much more around building out this profile. And there really aren't many profiles on the internet anymore. I mean, social networking is maybe the most popular product in the history of the world that was invented then uninvented. Because in 2012, social networking became basically social media. Social networks is not really a term anymore. Are there any social networks? Yes. Is even the Facebook app a social network? I don't know. And I don't really know anyone on Facebook's app anymore. And so Instagram, TikTok, YouTube are decidedly not social networking because you're performing. You're not connecting. There's no intimacy. It's parasocial typically. Nothing wrong with any of this. But what's true is there's a void. And I think what we're trying to do is not bring back the old Facebook. We're trying to do something like that in the real world, where you can connect and have networks of people in the real world you want to meet, stay in touch with. And I think there's a huge need in society for that. So that's kind of the thing I'm most excited about. The thing that's going to endure longer than any technology is a community. By the way, like technologies come and go, but communities, they often stick around for decades or centuries.
So, like I heard you say a long time ago, the human part is still more important than the travel part.
Our original tagline was travel like a human. And the key is human, not travel. Airbnb is not limited to travel. I think travel is always going to be at the center of what we do. It's kind of so aspirational. It's hard to not do travel. But I think there's a day where we're much more than travel. But we're never much more than just being human.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.